In the vast, untamed landscapes of the American Old West, we often picture gun-slinging outlaws, dusty saloons, and rugged pioneers. But beneath the surface of this wild frontier, another story was unfolding, one involving a crop that would eventually spark cultural revolutions and political battles across the world. Long before modern cannabis movements took root, weed had a quiet, yet undeniable presence in the daily lives of settlers, outlaws, and even cowboys. In Cannabis Cowboys, we explore the surprising history of how this plant found its way into the heart of the American West and what role it played in shaping frontier life. The Old West wasn't just fueled by dice, guns, and whiskey. There was another element that often went unnoticed. While we typically imagine cowboys and settlers gathered in saloons drinking firewater or white lightning, there was also widespread use of various drugs during this time. These substances, including morphine, cocaine, and cannabis, were completely legal and readily available. People could purchase them over the counter or receive them as prescriptions from doctors for a variety of ailments. In fact, doctors often prescribed these drugs for conditions ranging from pain relief to coughs, and even children were not excluded from their use. The lack of regulations made them easy to access, and they were often viewed as a routine part of medical care. Cannabis, in particular, was used for its calming effects, while morphine was favored for pain management, especially following surgeries or injuries, a common occurrence in the harsh realities of frontier life. Opium dens were not uncommon in towns, and patent medicines containing a mix of narcotics became popular among settlers. These cure-alls were marketed as remedies for everything from headaches to sleep problems, and many people relied on them without fully understanding their addictive properties. Laudanum, a tincture made from opium, was particularly common, and its use spanned all levels of society, from housewives to laborers. Despite the lack of restrictions, the culture of drug use in the Old West was largely one of necessity rather than excess. Many people turned to these substances to cope with the physical hardships and isolation of frontier life. However, given the potency of these drugs and the lack of medical oversight, it's surprising that more settlers didn't fall victim to addiction or overdose, though addiction did quietly impact many lives. Opiates. Opium use dates back thousands of years, with its earliest recorded cultivation around 3400 BC in the region of Lower Mesopotamia, located in Southwest Asia. The Sumerians, one of the earliest known civilizations, referred to the opium poppy as hulgil, meaning the joy plant. This name reflected not only the plant's medicinal value, but also its ability to produce a sense of euphoria. From the Sumerians, knowledge of the opium poppy spread to the Assyrians and later to the Egyptians, showing how interconnected ancient civilizations were in their pursuit of useful botanical remedies. In ancient Greece and Rome, physicians recognized opium as a powerful tool in their medical practices. It was valued primarily as a pain reliever, but it also had other significant uses. It was known for inducing sleep and even easing digestive issues, including relieving constipation. The fact that opium also produced feelings of pleasure did not go unnoticed. As word of its potency spread, so too did the demand, driving its cultivation across different regions. Over time, many countries began growing and processing opium, aiming to make it more widely available and less expensive for the people who relied on it. The cultivation of opium followed the trade routes of the ancient world, moving from the Mediterranean through Asia and eventually reaching China around 700 AD. By the 1600s, opium smoking had become a common practice in China, and by the 1800s, it had integrated deeply into Chinese culture, influencing both the social and political fabric of the time. In the early days of America, opium arrived with some of the first settlers. Samuel Fuller, a physician who traveled aboard the Mayflower in 1620, is believed to have brought with him a form of laudanum, an opium and alcohol mixture developed in the 16th century. This blend of opium was a versatile remedy used for pain relief, calming fevers, and inducing sleep. Doctors also prescribed it for a wide range of ailments, such as stomach disorders, tuberculosis, and even common colds. It was a staple in early medical kits, reflecting the limited understanding of medicine and the lack of other effective treatments during that era. By the time of the American Revolution, laudanum had become a well-established part of the medical landscape. Notable figures like Patrick Henry were known to have used it regularly, with Henry possibly developing a dependency on the drug. Benjamin Franklin also relied on laudanum in his later years to manage the severe pain caused by gout. Even Thomas Jefferson, who was known to be skeptical of contemporary medical practices, turned to laudanum as a last resort to alleviate his chronic digestive issues in his old age. The widespread use of opium and its derivatives during this period underscores the challenges that early societies faced in managing pain and illness. Without modern medical technology, people turned to the best remedies available, often unaware of the potential long-term consequences of regular opium use. These substances were seen as essential to everyday life, especially in environments as harsh and unpredictable as the American frontier. Opium contains over 25 medicinal derivatives, the most well-known of which is morphine. Morphine, named after Morpheus, the Greek god of sleep, was first isolated from opium in 1803. Despite its early discovery, morphine was slow to gain traction as a widely used pain reliever because it was not particularly effective when taken orally. In some cases, it was added to whiskey to enhance its effects, but even this mixture had limited success. It wasn't until the hypodermic syringe was invented in the 1850s that morphine could be administered in a more effective way, revolutionizing its use in medicine. Morphine and opium saw significant use during the Civil War, where they were essential in relieving pain on the battlefield. Initially, these substances were taken as pills, mixed with alcohol to create laudanum, or applied as powders directly onto open wounds. However, as syringes became more common in field hospitals, morphine was more frequently injected in liquid form, offering faster and more powerful relief. This development was especially critical during surgeries and for managing severe injuries. Unfortunately, this widespread use also led to unintended consequences, as some soldiers became dependent on these drugs. The prevalence of morphine addiction among Civil War veterans became so widespread that it earned the name soldier's disease. In fact, the issue was so significant that hospitals were forced to protect their medical supplies with armed guards to prevent theft. After the war, addiction remained a persistent problem, and many veterans continued to rely on morphine to cope with chronic pain and other ailments. Doctors in some cases even prescribed morphine as a treatment for alcoholism, believing that morphine addiction was a lesser issue compared to alcohol dependence. Beyond its use on the battlefield, morphine found its way into other aspects of 19th century medical practice. It was administered to women during childbirth to relieve labor pain and was used to treat a wide variety of conditions that had previously been treated with opium, such as headaches and digestive issues. Doctors saw morphine as a valuable tool for managing both acute and chronic ailments, though they were not fully aware of the addictive potential it carried. Another important derivative of opium was laudanum, a liquid medicine made by dissolving opium in alcohol. Laudanum was a popular sedative and pain reliever during this time, used to treat headaches, toothaches, insomnia, heart conditions, and various types of nerve pain. It was also commonly included in cough syrups to soothe irritation. This versatility made laudanum a household remedy in many communities, especially in areas where access to medical care was limited. However, laudanum's accessibility also led to its misuse. Some individuals, particularly those facing difficult circumstances, turned to laudanum as a means of escaping their emotional and physical pain. Sadly, it was sometimes used in cases of intentional overdose, especially among those who felt hopeless or disillusioned with their lives. This was particularly common among some women working in difficult conditions, such as sex workers in the Old West. Several tragic cases were documented, including the deaths of Sally Talbot in Cheyenne, Wyoming in 1873, and Laura Steele and Ida Vernon in Virginia City, Nevada in the mid-1870s. These historical examples reflect both the value and the risks of opium derivatives in 19th century medicine. While they provided relief for a wide range of ailments, they also carried the potential for dependency and misuse. The evolving understanding of these substances marked an important chapter in the history of medical treatment and drug regulation. One of the more notable figures of the Old West was Eleanor Dumont, better known as Madame Mustache. A skilled gambler, she made her living in the mining camps of Nevada, Montana, Arizona, and California. Unfortunately, her life ended tragically in 1879 after she lost a significant amount of money gambling in Bodie, California. She passed away due to an overdose, a fate not uncommon for those facing personal and financial hardship in this era. Another person tied to the history of laudanum use was Mattie Blaylock, the companion or common-law wife of Wyatt Earp. It's well documented that she used laudanum during their time together. After their relationship ended, Mattie's struggles continued, and in 1888, she took a lethal combination of laudanum and alcohol. Laudanum's reach extended far beyond the frontier. Many notable literary figures of the time were known to have used the drug, including Charles Dickens, Lewis Carroll, Elizabeth Barrett Browning, and Edgar Allan Poe. Its wide use among creative minds speaks to its prominence as a remedy for various physical and emotional ailments, though it often came with a heavy cost. Opium itself saw its first wave of recreational use in the United States during the 19th century, introduced by Chinese laborers who immigrated during the California Gold Rush and the construction of the Transcontinental Railroad. These workers brought with them the practice of smoking opium, and soon opium dens began to appear in towns where Chinese communities settled. From 1850 to 1870, opium smoking remained mostly confined to these communities. But by the 1870s, its use began to spread beyond the Chinese population. The habit was especially common among people in the underground world, including gamblers, prostitutes, and others involved in vice activities. Opium dens were typically found in the Chinese districts of towns, often referred to as Hop Alley. Denver's Hop Alley, for example, housed 12 opium dens by the 1880s, with several more nearby. As reports of the effects of opium smoking reached the broader population, its popularity spread across the country, even as far as New York City. During this time, the importation of opium grew significantly, with shipments increasing from 24,000 pounds in 1840 to over 416,000 pounds by 1872. By the 1890s, as opium use reached its peak, the temperance movement was on the rise. The social focus on reducing alcohol consumption may have contributed to the increase in opium use, as it was easier to conceal and had fewer outwardly noticeable effects than heavy drinking. By 1900, estimates suggested that approximately 250,000 people in the U.S. were addicted to opium, reflecting the widespread impact this substance had on American society during that time. During the late 19th and early 20th centuries, Americans didn't need to visit opium dens to experience the effects of opiates. These substances were already widely available in the form of patent medicines, many over-the-counter remedies for common ailments, ranging from teething powders for infants to cough syrups, and treatments for women's health concerns, often contained opiates as a primary ingredient. These elixirs were marketed as cure-alls, reflecting the limited medical knowledge and regulation of the time. In 1898, the pharmaceutical company Bayer made a notable discovery. By boiling morphine, they created a new substance, heroin, which was initially considered a powerful and effective medication. The name heroin comes from the German word heroisch, meaning heroic or strong, underscoring the belief in its potency. Bayer soon launched an ambitious marketing campaign, positioning heroin as a groundbreaking treatment for a variety of conditions, including asthma, coughs, colds, bronchitis, and even tuberculosis. It was promoted for use in both adults and children, showing just how widespread its distribution was. At the time, heroin was advertised as non-addictive, which was a key selling point for those looking for alternatives to alcohol or morphine. The marketing of heroin, like many patent medicines of the era, emphasized its supposed safety and effectiveness, overlooking the potential dangers of dependence and misuse. Bayer also introduced another significant product around the same time, aspirin, which remains a widely used medicine today. However, heroin's initial popularity came to an end as more awareness grew about its addictive properties, though this wasn't widely recognized until after 1912. Cannabis. The earliest written record of cannabis use dates back to 2727 BC in China, where it was recognized as a legitimate medicine. From there, knowledge of the plant spread across ancient civilizations. The Greeks and Romans were also familiar with its properties, and its use became widespread throughout the Islamic Empire, eventually reaching North Africa. By 1545, cannabis had made its way to the Western Hemisphere. Spanish colonists brought it to Chile, primarily for use as a fiber source. In North America, cannabis, mainly in the form of hemp, was introduced by Spanish settlers and later cultivated on many plantations for producing rope, clothing, and paper. It became a significant crop during the colonial period, with farmers growing it primarily for its durable fibers. Along with tobacco, hemp became a major export commodity before the American Revolution, helping to drive the economy. In 1611, settlers in Jamestown, Virginia, began cultivating hemp for its practical uses. By 1629, the plant had been introduced to New England, and from then until after the Civil War, hemp was an essential crop in North America. Its cultivation played a central role in the agricultural and economic policies of both colonial and early national America. Even notable figures like George Washington grew hemp at Mount Vernon in 1765, and by 1775, hemp production had spread to Kentucky. Hemp plantations thrived in states like Mississippi, Georgia, California, South Carolina, and Nebraska, continuing to be a key agricultural product well into the 1800s. In 1830, an Irish doctor specializing in herbal remedies introduced cannabis to the Western medical community for its ability to relieve muscle spasms and pain. It soon became widely used to treat conditions such as migraines and insomnia, and served as a primary painkiller until aspirin's invention. Between 1850 and 1942, cannabis was recognized by the United States Pharmacopoeia, which listed it as an accepted medicine under the name Extractum Cannabis. The U.S. Dispensatory in 1851 even described cannabis as a treatment for various conditions, including neuralgia, gout, rheumatism, tetanus, cholera, convulsions, and hemorrhage. Cannabis was an integral part of both the medical and economic landscape for centuries, highlighting its importance not only as a fiber-producing plant, but also as a medicinal remedy. In 1857, Fitzhugh Ludlow published an autobiographical book titled The Hashish Eater. The work explored Ludlow's experiences using a cannabis extract, detailing his altered states of consciousness and philosophical musings. The book sparked curiosity in the United States, where the public became intrigued by hashish. As a result, hashish candies and private hashish clubs began to emerge. Within 25 years of the book's release, several U.S. cities had private hashish parlors. By 1869, the non-medical use of cannabis was noted in an issue of Scientific American. The article described hashish, referred to as cannabis indica by the U.S. Pharmacopoeia, as a product of hemp plants grown in regions like the East Indies and Asia. The article acknowledged its use for intoxicating purposes in those countries, suggesting that its recreational use was also present, though limited, in the United States. As cannabis use for leisure slowly grew, it captured the attention of the media. A notable example came in the December 2, 1876 issue of the Illustrated Police News, which depicted 5 women in ornate attire purportedly indulging in hashish inside a room filled with hookahs. The caption sensationalized the scene, calling it Secret Dissipation of New York Belles, Interior of a Hashish Hell on Fifth Avenue, reflecting the public's fascination and moral concern about this foreign practice. This relaxed attitude toward cannabis remained until 1906, when the federal government enacted the Pure Food and Drug Act. This legislation required that products containing dangerous or addictive substances, including cannabis, be labeled accordingly. The law marked a turning point in drug regulation as the government sought to control the use of substances like cannabis and prevent addiction. Despite these early efforts to regulate cannabis and other drugs, the broader societal response remained complex. The roots of recreational cannabis use continued to spread, and government measures to limit its availability, as we see today, have not fully eradicated the practice. Cocaine. The coca leaf, one of the oldest known stimulants from nature, has been in use since around 3000 BC. In ancient times, the Inca people of South America chewed these leaves to stimulate their bodies, helping them increase their heart rate and breathe more easily in the thin air of the Andes Mountains. Coca also played a significant role in religious ceremonies and was used by the Peruvians as a natural painkiller, especially for numbing open wounds. It wasn't until 1859 that German chemist Albert Niemann first extracted cocaine from the coca leaf. Soon after, in 1863, French chemist Angelo Mariani capitalized on this discovery by creating a popular tonic called Vin Mariani, a drink made with coca leaves. This beverage, which reportedly contained around 50 milligrams of cocaine in just 2 glasses, was advertised as a revitalizing tonic that restored health and energy. The drink gained significant popularity, often being viewed as a cure for many ailments, from fatigue to general weakness. Cocaine itself didn't gain significant attention from the medical community until the 1880s. In 1883, Dr. Theodor Aschenbrandt, a physician for the Bavarian army, conducted an experiment during military maneuvers. He supplied soldiers with pure cocaine to assess its effects during physically demanding, battle-like situations. His findings were well received, as he reported that the soldiers showed increased stamina and reduced fatigue under stressful conditions. This sparked interest in cocaine as a potential performance enhancer and caught the eye of the medical world. Among those intrigued by these results was Sigmund Freud, the Austrian psychoanalyst. Freud became a notable advocate for cocaine's use, personally experimenting with it and promoting it as a treatment for depression and even sexual impotence. Freud's endorsement of the drug helped further its reputation as a potential wonder tonic during that era, reflecting both the fascination with and limited understanding of its long-term effects. These developments laid the foundation for cocaine's initial rise in popularity, even as its risks and consequences were yet to be fully understood. Before long, cocaine became a common ingredient in various patent medicines. Cocaine lozenges were recommended as effective treatments for ailments such as coughs, colds, and toothaches. Doctors and pharmacists often prescribed the drug for conditions ranging from indigestion and melancholia to pain relief and easing nausea during pregnancy. The substance was widely accessible and could even be purchased over the counter. It was incorporated into products like cough syrups, enemas, and poultices for topical treatment. By 1885, cocaine was available in several forms, including cigarettes, powders, and injectable solutions. In the medical field, it became a widely used local anesthetic due to its numbing properties. That same year, John Stith Pemberton, a pharmacist in Atlanta, Georgia, who had previously manufactured patent medicines like triplex liver pills and globe of flower cough syrup, introduced French wine coca. This tonic, heavily relying on coca leaf extract, was advertised as an ideal nerve and tonic stimulant. The following year, Pemberton launched a new product, Coca-Cola, which initially contained both coca leaf extract and an infusion from the cola nut. Marketed as a therapeutic remedy, Coca-Cola was advertised as a solution for various ailments, including melancholy and insomnia. At one point, a glass of Coca-Cola was estimated to contain around 9 milligrams of cocaine. To put that into perspective, a typical recreational dose or line of cocaine is between 50 and 75 milligrams. By 1903, however, the cocaine content in Coca-Cola was removed in response to growing concerns about the drug's addictive properties and shifting public attitudes towards its use. As the smoke clears on this hidden chapter of the American Old West, one thing becomes clear. Cannabis wasn't just a plant. It was woven into the fabric of frontier life. From medicinal uses to recreational indulgence, it played a role in the lives of the pioneers, gunslingers, and everyday folks trying to survive in a harsh, unforgiving land. If you're ready to uncover more fascinating stories from the wild frontier, hit that subscribe button and join us for more untold tales from the Wild West.